Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Midwest Climate Engineering Watch, and today we're going to cover another installment of this week's news. News mainstream media doesn't want to cover, but news we will. Be prepared because some things are obvious, but other things are not. Let's begin. From Alyssa Milano, masks work better to protect you than AR-15s. I love it when celebrities chip in to tell us how to live our lives, don't you? Living in that level of privilege and excitement, completely removed from reality of what's really going on in the world, not surrounded by struggles or looking for the $600 stimulus check, just sitting in her lap of luxury mansion, not caring about one thing about the world outside of her own needs and wants. Good job, Alyssa Milano. I'm excited. Next article. Many healthcare workers are refusing to take the coronavirus vaccine. Are we surprised? The LA Times reports at St. Elizabeth's Community Hospital in Tehama County, California, fewer than half of the 700 hospital workers eligible for a vaccine were willing to take a shot when it was first offered. At Providence Holy Cross Medical Center in Mission Hills, 1 in 5 frontline nurses and doctors have declined the shot. Roughly 20 to 40% of LA County's frontline workers who were offered the vaccine did the same thing. The vaccine doubts swirling among healthcare workers across the country come as a surprise to researchers who assumed hospital staff would be among the most in tune with scientific data backing the vaccines. You mean BS scientific data backing the vaccines. Data that did not do animal testing and skipped most testing to begin with. Those studies? I love mainstream scientists. They know what's best for us too. Next up. You can't sue Pfizer or Moderna if you have a severe COVID vaccine side effect. The government likely won't compensate you for damages either. Article goes to say that under the PrEP Act, companies like Pfizer and Moderna have total immunity from liability if something unintentionally goes wrong with their vaccines. A little-known government program provides benefits to people who can prove they have suffered injuries from a vaccine. The program rarely pays, covering just 29 claims over the last decade. If you experience side effects after getting COVID vaccine, lawyers tell CNBC there's basically no one to blame in the U.S. court of law. Exactly. Blame yourself for taking it. Along the same headlines, the government program Tap to Pay for COVID-19 vaccine injury rarely sides with consumers. This goes along the same lines. The government does not care and you will not be cared or provided for. These injuries happen to you. You must understand you are on your own island. You are absolutely stuck and stranded, and it will not get any better. The only way to stop this is to rally and protest these absurd and ridiculous vaccine protection laws that these manufacturers have. On to the next article. Censorship and oppression threaten America's trademark standards of democracy and open debate. RFK Jr. goes into saying that the biggest threat to American democracy comes from within. President Eisenhower's farewell speech cautioned the public about the abuse of power within the military-industrial complex. The fall of the Berlin Wall signified the end of the war on communism, leaving U.S. intelligence workers with nothing to fight and the need to create a war to justify their existence. The war on communism and terrorism and the biosecurity agenda became the new focal points of the government intelligence as communism became no longer a threat. The installation of surveillance architecture ensures the capacity to keep track of every square foot of the planet and obliterate privacy. Well, if that isn't the truth, I don't know what is. From Counterpunch.com, repairing Trump's carnage, fixing our democracy. Counterpunch goes to say that Donald Trump continues to wreck the engine of our democracy before turning over the keys to President-elect Joe Biden. His unconscionable use of the pardon power, veto of defense bill for all the wrong reasons, threat to the civil service system, firing of statutory inspector generals without cause, illegal profiting from business interests, and violations of the Hatch Act represents Trump's assault on governance. But the most worrisome aspect of his wretched legacy are his attacks on the rule of law, our electoral system, and our tradition of stable succession. Indeed, his attack on democracy itself. Trump's failures as president, in my opinion, is not going after big tech, not giving Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Chelsea Manning a pardon, as well as allowing this takeover of the communist system that seems to be plaguing the American society day in, day out. It does not matter what people say, the evidence shows that the man has really done nothing, and as a result, he's lost the election due to lack of action. And moving on, military bracing for attack on U.S. forces in Iraq on 1-year anniversary for strike that killed Iranian top general Qasem Soleimani. Now, this should be obvious that this is a false flag being set up. America has been wanting to go to war with Iran for a long, long time on Israel's behalf. You remember the old General Wesley Clark speech that he gave about toppling 7 countries in the Middle East, and he had no idea why it was happening. Going to war with Iran will be absolutely destructive to the American empire, but all this is a massive resource war to consolidate our empire and grow it further and further, regardless of the cost of life and destruction it has across the world. And finally, thousands without power in Aspen, Colorado. Work crews are scrambling to restore gas service, and local authorities handed out electric space heaters to residents still without heat Tuesday, as a storm is forecast to bring up to 8 inches of snow in the Rocky Mountains region this week. Temperatures are forecast to fall to 2 degrees in Aspen on Tuesday night, according to the National Weather Service. Aspen police said apparently coordinated attacks of vandalism occurred Saturday night at 3 separate Black Hills Energy gas lines, 1 in Aspen and 2 elsewhere in Pitkin County. At one of the targeted sites, police say they found the words "Earth First" scrawled, and investigators were looking into whether the self-described radical environmental group Earth First was involved. Being that this attack happened, remember folks, have some resources, have something. It's not guaranteed that this country is always going to be on its 2 feet standing strong. 2021 will be a rough year, and it's projected that way. And remember, take care of yourself, take care of your neighbors, take care of your family. And when you can, remember to take a stand when no one else will. Thank you guys for listening. Looking forward to seeing you next year, and also subscribe if you can.